Periscope look all right?
Yeah, we have 11 watchers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, welcome. And tonight we are talking about ways to help you exercise for life. Okay. Specifically, we are talking about 6 tips to make 2016 a successful year of exercise. All right. And the reason we are kicking off the year with this is because we find that with the turn of the year comes New Year's resolutions, comes a number of new goals and ambitions for health and wellness and fitness, all of which are admirable, all of which are really awesome, but most of which fail to get carried out for the entire 365 days, or in this case, 366. And why is that? Well, there's a number of reasons, and we're not going to go really into that. That's outside the scope of this talk tonight. But the way we are looking to go with this is identifying some ways to ensure that we don't fall off the bandwagon throughout the year, and that we can continue to exercise, not just for 2016, but for the rest of our life. Because really that's our mission here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, to help our clients exercise for the entirety of their life. All right, now, I'm Charlie and this is Julie, and we're personal trainers here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, and we also have a specialty called muscle activation techniques. And what we're able to do with that is identify where somebody may be vulnerable to injury, where some muscles may not be working as well as they should, and design exercise for them, specific for their body, with the goal of helping our clients exercise for life. Okay? Now, again, we'll have 6 tips. If you have questions at all throughout, definitely feel free to ask. Unfortunately, with the Periscope, because the camera's back there, I'm not going to be able to get the questions. We're not going to be able to get the questions live. But what we'd love you to do, if you're watching this on Periscope, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/MAT Schaumburg, and send us questions or send us your contact information via message through the our Facebook page, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Reason being is because we have a SurveyMonkey survey that we'll send out regarding what you thought of the talk, and we're also creating this talk into an ebook as well as a private YouTube video. So if you send us your email, we will send you the PDF for the ebook as well as the password and the link, so you can, for the YouTube video, so you can replay this as often as you want and continue to gather the information throughout forever.
Because you like looking at our beautiful faces.
Exactly. Awesome. So, one of the biggest things that we find as far as deterrence for why people are unable to sustain exercise for their entire life is because we get caught up in a lot of fads of exercise. All right? And so our first tip of the 6 is to beware of these fads of exercise, okay? And so we look up here and we see things like the Thigh Master, we see Billy Blanks with Tybo, the vibrating belts, which have had like 3 or 4 or 5 different kind of reinventions, okay? And then everybody's favorite, the shapelet. Now, all of these, at one point or another, were deemed like the answer to all of your exercise needs, all of your health and fitness and physical activity needs. And that's wonderful, but over the course of 10, 20, 30 plus years, they've all kind of faded out. And so if this was your way of exercising for life, we may be running into some issues. They've all kind of end up falling on the fad train. So what we need to identify are what are fads and what are not fads, what are more exercise facts, okay? And then gear our physical activity, our choices of exercise, towards those exercise facts. So one rule of thumb is if a program or a machine or a contraption is giving out a promise that sounds too good to be true, it more than likely is, okay? So if what people are telling you happens after 6 weeks or after 90 days, you see these awesome transformations. If it seems too good to be true, it likely is, and it's likely not sustainable for the rest of your life. And remember, this is the kind of goal of this talk, is how can we figure out how to exercise for the rest of our life, all right? So that's one rule of thumb. The other thing is that if everybody's doing it, it's often not specific enough to really address your needs, to really address what your body is needing from a physical activity standpoint, what's appropriate for you, and what you're currently able to do. And so all those topics need to come into question when deciding whether to partake in an exercise program or whether to use some kind of exercise tool that's being advertised. So in terms of that, we need to be thinking about not what looks really good right now, but what could look good forever.
I remember when I was 12, my parents got, maybe I was 8, yeah. Between 8 and 12, I don't remember. My parents got one of those electrocutor belts for your abs, and you like rub this gel on it, and I remember trying it and being like, okay, this is how you get abs.
Shocks
But yeah, but now no one uses them, so that would have been an example of bad because it promised you 6 packs, and no one got one from it, so
yeah,
it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But, perfect. So next we're going to be talking about long-term versus short-term exercise. And the reason this is so important is, do you know of anyone that has ever done an exercise one time and gotten the benefits from it? No, probably not. Yeah, you got to be doing it for a long time. So the changes that we seek with exercise are usually realized over a very long period of time, and generally longer than we think. A lot of times we want to think, you know, if I could stick with this for 3 months or 6 months or maybe even a year or 2 years, that would be awesome. And it is really awesome because you got to get past those points. But what we think of when we think of long term, we're talking about the rest of your life, because we want you to be able to be using your body and have strength in your body for every year that you have coming. So think about how many more years you're going to live. That's how many years we need to be thinking about exercise. Not for a year, not for 90 days. And I know that can sound kind of grueling and daunting, but that's kind of how exercise has to be. If you're using exercise to get the biggest bang for the workout, you might be, actually your body might be paying for that workout in a way that you might not be able to work out the next day or the following week or the next month or maybe 6 months. Who knows what's going on? So I really like this quote that we put up here, and I'm not sure if the periscopers can read it. So it says, don't progress to get the biggest bang out of each day of exercise. Progress to get the biggest bang out of your exercise life. So how can I exercise today to make sure I can continue to exercise for my many years to come?
Yeah, an analogy I like to give along those lines is the idea of hitting singles. You don't need to go into the gym and try to hit a home run every time. Just go and hit a single. If you go in baseball, if you go up to bat and you hit a single every time you bat, 1, you're going to be a phenomenal hitter. But 2, if everybody on your team just hits singles, everybody's just going to get around the bases. You don't need to try to smack out of the park every single time. Just go and hit a single. What's reasonable for today that you can continue to do over for the long term? Awesome. So with the idea of thinking long term in mind, one thing we want to discuss is this idea of thinking internal, not external. Okay? And what we mean by that is the dumbbell in your hand, the bands, the machine, that's not the exercise. The choreographed move is not the exercise. What the exercise is what's happening internally. Okay? So you can move the weight up and down all you want. That weight is not adaptive. You come back 3 years later after having moved it day after day, that 5-pound dumbbell is still a 5-pound dumbbell. It doesn't change. What changes is what's inside of you, okay? Your bones, your joints, your muscles. And that's really where your focus needs to be, because that's the thing that's adaptive. And that's the thing that you're challenging while you're exercising, okay? So how do we do this? How do we gain this internal view or internal approach to exercise? How do we think internal about our exercise? Well, one thing that we like to really cue our clients with here is if you just kind of let your arms hang a little bit, elbows bent at 90 degrees, and just stay nice and relaxed, okay? Your hands are at 90, your elbows are at 90 degrees. But can you really feel your biceps working? I mean, they have to be working in order for your hands to be here. but you probably don't feel them that much, all right? If you just kind of move them up and down, you might feel them a little bit. Now, compare that to having your hands at 90 degrees, the exact same position you were in before. Squeezing your biceps as hard as you can, and squeezing and really thinking about focusing on squeezing those biceps as hard as you can. One, it's going to feel way more difficult. Two, the sensation is going to be through the roof greater. And so instead of thinking, oh, well, I'm in the right choreographed position, and the weight that I'm moving, I can put 10 pounds, I can put 15 pounds in my hand, well, that's the challenge. Instead, think about what's going on the inside. Focus and squeeze. Squeeze those biceps, squeeze those muscles that you're trying to challenge, squeeze them as hard as you can, okay? Because then we're taking this internal approach to exercise. We're not worried about that external, right? And that's a really big thing. And the reason why it's a big thing is looking at things physiologically, all right? You can put these different sensors on your body called EMGs, and you can put these EMG sensors on, let's say, your biceps, and you can do that exercise. You can just kind of hold the weight right here, all right? And it'll show how much activity the muscles, the biceps, are generating, okay? Or how much signal is going to them, all right? And then you can do that exact same thing, but squeeze and focus and squeeze those biceps as hard as you can, and that signal goes through the roof. The amount of muscular activity goes through the roof. And why that's so important is because all the changes that you're trying to make physiologically within yourself, okay? Regardless of what your goal of exercise is, all those changes that you're trying to make internally, by getting more signal to those muscles, you're going to create those changes at a faster pace, at a safer rate, and you're going to get better results than you did before because you're getting greater activation of that tissue. So it's not just a kind of a catchphrase to work out by. There's actually a lot of scientific justification for thinking internally while you're exercising as opposed to just doing it and moving the weight for the sake of seeing the weight float up and down.
And I think what's really important to point out here is that a lot of times when we bring this up to clients, we got to think about what's happening on the inside, not focus on moving the weight or moving the dumbbell or moving the band or what have you. I get a lot of comments that say, well, I'm not trying to get big muscles. I want to lose weight, or I want to tone up, or I'm just trying to regain strength. What happens when we're focusing internally is not that it means that you're going to build this muscle to a huge amount, but you have to realize when you're in the gym, one of the biggest things that is adapting to what you are doing is your muscles. So if we can make your exercise more effective by stimulating this muscle more, we're actually going to get more out of your hour or 45 minutes or 30 minutes, however long you're exercising, than if you were thinking about moving the machine or moving the dumbbell. So we really do want to bring the focus internally so that no matter what your goal is, you are still getting the biggest bang for your buck. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to get big muscles or get buff or anything like that. So just because you're thinking about how the muscles are functioning doesn't necessarily yield the result of what we will call hypertrophy, which is the growing of muscle size. So the next point, and this one is really overlooked a lot in our industry, is listen to your body. So I think a lot of people can relate. So I grew up with 4 siblings. So whenever my mom went to the grocery store, she brought home so many groceries. Like there were 7 people in my house eating, and all of us did sports, so we were hungry kids. And maybe 3 times a week, we would hear the garage door open, and we're all in the house, and we knew what that meant. But finally, my mom would take her cell phone and call all of us and say, Lauren, Adam, Lisa, Julie, Zach, you guys need to come out here and help me with the groceries. Because, there's like 50 bags of groceries. But it took that phone call for us to get out there when we all along knew that when we heard the garage door after Mom went to the supermarket, it was time for us to all file out and bring the groceries in. Okay, Julie, how does this apply to the human body? Our body does not, unfortunately, have the technological advances of text messaging, emailing, or So when something is going on in your body that needs attention, just like my mom with the groceries, we don't get to send a voicemail or a text message or an email from your ankle or your knee, whatever's bothering you, your hip, maybe it's your shoulder, up to your brain to say, hey Charlie, let's not work this joint today. Something's not going well. The only thing that our body has to communicate with us are symptoms. And these symptoms, in the case that I gave before, was the garage door opening. We all heard it. We didn't want to go there, but we heard it. Things that we might feel in our bodies to indicate that we might need to manipulate or change what we're going to do with our body or our exercise would be things like pain or tightness or achiness or some kind of like pinching, stabbing feeling. Those are ways, and it's the only way, that your body has to communicate with you to let you know that something might not be going well, something might need extra rest, something might need a little more attention maybe from a professional. So we really do encourage that you do listen to your body because it is the only single way we have to communicate. And what we call this, listening to your body, is really listening to your symptoms. That's the only way we can really read how our body's feeling. There are some other things that we want you to consider. Every time you go to the gym, you need to consider, what's your stress level that day? Did you just come from a really stressful meeting, just driving in the snow? It's snowing here. I don't know if there's anyone in warm weather, but it's snowing here. And, that can be a really stressful drive. So you're going to take the stress from your day and then add some more stress in the gym. What's your nutritional status? Are you coming off of Christmas and New Year's, having all these sweets and treats, and now going to really, really challenge your body on a much less nourished body? That's really a consideration. If you're not well nourished, maybe you take it later that day, even if you feel like you've eaten a ton. It might not have been a great ton of food that you ate. It could have been a lot of sweets, maybe something that doesn't agree with your body. And the last thing I do want to bring up is your sleep. So are you super fatigued? Are you sleeping well? All these things really do play into listening to your body because your body will tell you these things. We just need to listen.
Exactly. Yep. Listening to the body is a really big thing, especially we want to make sure that we're able to exercise for the rest of our lives. So if we're feeling something today, we don't want to ignore that and have that whisper become a louder kind of annoyance, and then that annoyance become a constant, chronic kind of achiness. So if something bothering you today, listen to your body. Get it checked out, adjust your exercise accordingly. Because remember, like Julie said earlier, the results you get from exercise, the really positive results you get from exercise for the long term, are not found in this one workout today. They're found in your workout today, plus tomorrow, plus the next day, plus forever. And if that's really the goal, we need to be mindful of what we're doing today and adjust things accordingly.
The next point is schedule your exercise. And I feel like when we're talking to clients, this is the number one thing we have to tell our clients is schedule your exercise because something will come up. Something will get in the way, and I can promise you that because every single one of us, I feel like, has such a crazy schedule, and we need to schedule the exercise so that we make sure that it becomes a priority. One tactic that Charlie and I use is that our schedule changes every single week. We never have the same schedule every week. So on Sundays, before the week gets started, we pretty much have a rough estimate about what's going on that week, and we will schedule our exercise, whether we block off 2 hours one day or an hour, or maybe it's just 30 minutes. That's great too. But it needs to be scheduled so that the time is not missed. I want to give you a little perspective here. So I was thinking of a way, how can we better think about, how can we prioritize this time in our schedule? Because before I was thinking about this, sometimes I would put an hour in my schedule and then, I was working on a client file or I had a couple phone calls to make. So, of course, I do that instead of exercise to benefit my body. But let's think of this. So it's snowing here in Chicago and, let's pretend we're supposed to get 3 feet of snow tonight into tomorrow. And everyone knows it. And tonight you get home, it's 9 p.m., and your boss emails you and says, Charlie, tomorrow I think at 7 in the morning, we're going to have a meeting to talk about your promotion and your raise. You think you can make it? What do you think Charlie says back?
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be there. might take me 4 hours to get there. I don't care because there's a blizzard coming because I value that meeting that much. And not only does he value that meeting, but he's also probably put in a lot of time and a lot of effort into this job so that he can earn this promotion and earn this, this raise that they're talking about. More money in the bank. When you schedule your exercise, it's scheduled so that you can start paying yourself. It's scheduled so that you can start investing in your body so that it can pay you back later in life. So what we want to see is not only are you scheduling the exercise, but that it stays as a valued hour or however amount of time. So it stays as a valued, we could say chunk of time in your schedule. Because that is the time that you're going to be investing in your body to hold up for you for the long haul. And one thing is for sure is that if you miss that meeting, like with the boss, you probably will miss that promotion and miss that raise, and you knew it was coming. The great thing with exercise is that it's the same thing. If you miss your time of exercise, you definitely know that you are not going to receive the benefits of exercise that day. And I know we've been talking about the single one workout isn't going to change your world, but when we see that you constantly are scheduling over your scheduled time, that's when it's going to make an impact on your the health of your body and the health of your muscle system. So really, that time is for you to invest in your body and really value it as such, because there's going to come a day when it's hard to get to the gym because of your body can't handle it. So we need to be investing now.
Exactly. Creating the habit of making your exercise time a priority in your schedule. Right? That's really what it comes down to, is creating that habit of making that time a priority. All right, our sixth and final tip for how to create a successful year of exercise in 2016. All right, number 6 is seek help when you need it. So seek out help from others, from resources when you need it. And we have a picture of Star Wars up here. We'll get to that in a second. But the big thing is again, we started this conversation bringing up the idea that a lot of us kick off the year with certain health and fitness aspirations. But at some point between January 1 and December 31, a lot of us fall off the wagon. And so if you have some kind of mentor, a coach, somebody who can hold you accountable, somebody who can look in and say, you know what, you just need to make a tweak here, or let's try this instead. That may help you continue to exercise not only for the rest of the year, but again, for the rest of your life, all right? So seeking out help when you need it. Like, here's where the Star Wars analogy comes in, because there's a caveat to this, all right? In that all resources are not created equal. What I mean by this is, who here knows somebody who's an avid Star Wars fan? Just like a huge, monstrous Star Wars fan, could tell you every line from every movie, all the characters, and you watch the movies with them, and they're like ruining it as they go along, so they're saying the lines along with it. They're just major Star Wars.
Here it comes.
Right, exactly.
Wait for it.
Exactly. And so they're super geeked out about Star Wars. They love that stuff. They know it inside and out. Now, you might call that person a Star Wars expert, but would you necessarily trust that person to create the next Star Wars film? There's a huge difference between somebody who can watch Star Wars and be like, oh, that's awesome, I see that, that's so cool, and George Lucas. There's a major gap between those two. So here's the thing. Unfortunately, the way that the fitness industry is most of the fitness professionals got into the industry because they were the ones that were good at exercise. What I mean by that is they were the ones who enjoyed being at the gym, who enjoyed working out and going for runs, and they found this thing that they really liked, and now they're turning it into a career. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that in the least, okay? But the thing that you need to watch out for, you need to make sure that they have an understanding of more than just the consumer side of exercise. They have an understanding of the anatomy, the physiology, of mechanics and biochemistry, and how everything relates to not only exercise as a whole, but to you as a human, you as an individual, and how to assess you and then apply this thing that we call exercise to your system and custom fit it to you to make sure that your exercise experience and your exercise dosage is exactly what you need. And that's a really, really, really important thing. Because otherwise, honestly, you're going to be watching your next Star Wars film that's casted and directed by the guy who's the super fan of Star Wars, the super Star Wars geek, who just loves everything about it, but they're not good at creating it. And when you start thinking about your exercise and your health that way, there's a really big difference between the two. So definitely you need to seek out help. You need to seek out help when you need it. But you need to be very mindful about the resources you're using to gather your information, to gather your help, okay? And then vet them in the process. Make sure that you're asking questions. Make sure that the advice you're getting is not something that you could just pull up on an online blog or that you find in the periodicals or the magazines at the grocery store. Make sure that it's something that's actually tailored to you. And if it doesn't feel right, you have to let them know. Because exercise doesn't have to hurt. It shouldn't hurt. But it has to be custom fit for you and for your body. So seeking out help is really important. Make sure you're getting it from the right resources. So, to conclude, we have this, I'm pitching this idea of exercising for life, of figuring out how you can remain physically active for the rest of your life. So exercise is not ever something you have to retire from, because exercise shouldn't be something you ever have to retire from. And you should be able to remain physically active for the rest of your life. And how can we do this? Well, one, you need to be aware of the fads. You have to identify those, and just because they were once there and no longer are doesn't mean there's not fads right now. So be very, very mindful of that. Secondly, making sure to think long term. Okay? Again, the value of a workout is the value of exercising. It's not necessarily what you get today, but what you get in today's workout, plus tomorrow, plus the next day.
Plus next year's.
Exactly, plus next year.
And in 5 years.
Exactly. So making sure you're thinking long term. Thirdly, think internal. Okay, this idea of really focusing on the things that are actually going to adapt. Your muscles, your bones, your joints. Being mindful of those and making sure that's where your focus is. Not the choreographed move, not moving the weight.
The number of reps.
Or the number of reps.
The time.
Exactly. Thinking about what's going on inside of you and really trying to feel that while you exercise. Fourthly, and this one kind of blends with it, is listening to your body. Listening to your body before you go work out. Listening to your body while you work out. Listening to your body after you work out. And just being very mindful of how you're feeling, how you're doing, everything else that's going on in your life when you're choosing your exercise. Not flipping open your workout app and it's saying, oh, this is your exercise for today. And you're thinking, I slept 4 hours last night. How is this going to be my exercise for today? Well, I guess I got to do it. No. Being mindful of, hey, I'm not feeling up to this, I'm going to modify it. Making the modifications accordingly. Number 5, schedule your exercise. Honestly, this may be the most important one on here if you want to make sure that you exercise for the rest of your life. It has to be in your schedule and you have to prioritize that time. It has to be in your schedule and you have to prioritize that time.
Have to go to every payday to get paid.
Exactly.
Yep.
Finally, seeking out help when you need it. Understanding that all resources are not built the same, but also understanding that, hey, if you're getting stuck, there are resources out there to help you, and so seeking them out and getting the help and the guidance that you need in order to exercise your life. Awesome. Any questions? Well, hey, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody that tuned in online, everybody that came live, battling the snow. Appreciate it very much.
Remember, if you're on Periscope, if you do have any questions, because the way that Periscope questions come up, it's like you have to be staring at it for us to see it. So we really want your feedback. We want to help you out. So please like our Facebook page.
Yep. Facebook.com/MAT Schaumburg. Matt Schaumburg. Okay. And so check that out.
Message us on there.
Yeah, send us a message to that page with your question. We'll gladly answer it, as well as your email address, because what we're going to do is we're going to upload this video to a private link in YouTube, and we'll send out that link, and we'll send you the password for it, and then we're going to convert it into an ebook as well, so you get a nice PDF with you can follow that way as well. Now, we're going to be hosting another talk in March, so this is going to be a bi-monthly talk series, so the second Monday in March. We'll be back here 6 to 7 p.m. again. And that topic, I believe, we're kind of up in the air about a couple, but it may be about, it's either range of motion or healthy muscle. We're going to nail that down, get that content out, and it's going to be sweet either way. So look for that coming up Monday, March 14th. So the second Monday of March at 6 p.m. We'll be back at it.
Yeah, the weather should be better. So if you're trying to get here and you're tuning in instead, we'd love to see you in person.
Yeah, awesome.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening. Yay.
Nicely done, guys.
Thanks for coming, Dave.